assembled from the three I in form and consciousness. Is contact. From contact feeling comes to be. It is important to note that this occurrence of consciousness, Renampar Shispa, in fact refers to the apprehension of the previous verse, which is in Buddhist psychology a form of consciousness. But it should not be confused with the consciousness whose condition is contact, on pain of a hopeless explanatory tangle. Contact, as we have seen, is dependent upon the existence of the organ, the object, and the functioning of the sense faculty. Dependent upon that contact is sensation. The exposition here is perfectly traditional. It only derives its punch from the context, in light of the connection that has been developed between the dependence that is central to this model and emptiness. The entire Theravada model of the nature of the phenomenal world comes to look like an analysis in terms of emptiness.
6. Conditioned by feeling is craving. Craving arises because of feeling. When it appears, there is grasping, the four spheres of grasping. Pleasurable sensations lead to craving, painful ones lead to craving for their end. That craving leads to grasping an attempt to appropriate and make one's own the source of pleasure or the means for the alleviation of pain, and to excessive valuation of the grasped object. The four spheres probably denote the four realms: the desire, the form, the formless, and the pure, entities in each of which could be the objects of grasping. 7. When there is grasping, the grasper comes into existence. If he did not grasp, then being freed, he would not come into existence. The identity of the individual as a grasper and hence as a deluded actor in the world and an agent of the continuation of samsara depends upon this grasping. As Nagarjuna argued in chapters 6 and 16, without grasping, there is no grasper.
8. This existence is also the five aggregates. From existence comes birth, old age and death and misery and suffering and grief and 9. Confusion and agitation. All these arise as a consequence of birth. Thus this entire mass of suffering comes into being. But moreover, the account that emerges so far of the nature of human existence, one involving a body, sensations, perception, dispositions, and consciousness, is just the account of personal existence in terms of the five aggregates into which standard Buddhist psychology analyzes the person. So this account so far is an account of the conditions that give rise to human existence. But human existence gives rise to human births, and these eventually give rise to aging, to pain and suffering, and eventually to death and the consequent grief of one's loved ones. This part of the story, of course, is central to making the case for the first two noble truths. We are born with dispositions to reify, to crave, and to grasp, all of which, on this analysis, lead directly to suffering, to the pain of wanting what we cannot have, of not wanting what we do have, of grasping onto permanence in an impermanent world, of cherishing our own existence and interests in a world where they are minor affairs, and of grasping for independence and freedom in a conditioned universe.
10. The root of cyclic existence is action. Therefore, the wise one does not act. Therefore, the unwise is the agent. The wise one is not because of his insight. The place to pick up the tangle in order to unravel it, from the standpoint of practice, Nagarjuna suggests, is with action and disposition, here comprised together under the single term action, do bide, which in this context conveys not only the unity of action and disposition as seen from the soteriological point of view, but also their role in creating or bringing about future existence. These are most easily controlled through philosophical reflection, through meditation, and through assiduous practices of various virtues. By changing the way that we act physically, verbally, and mentally, we thereby change the way that we perceive, think, and act, and thereby change what we see and the consequences of our actions.
11. With the cessation of ignorance, action will not arise. The cessation of ignorance occurs through meditation and wisdom. But in order really to modify our actions and dispositions to act, we need wisdom in this context and understanding of the real nature of things, which for Nagarjuna means the view of all things as empty. This view, Nagarjuna asserts, must be internalized through meditation, so that it becomes not merely a philosophical theory that we can reason our way into, but the basic way in which we take up with the world. Accomplishing that, he asserts, leads to the cessation of that activity responsible for the perpetuation of the suffering of samsara.
12. Through the cessation of this and that will not be manifest. The entire mass of suffering indeed thereby completely ceases. And this is not only the analysis Nagarjuna offers of the world and of our experience of it, but his final soteriological recommendation given the doctrine of the emptiness of all phenomena. Human existence and experience are indeed governed by the 12 links of dependent origination. But since they are essentially dependent, they are essentially empty and, hence, are impermanent and subject to change. The 12 links provide an anatomy and an etiology of suffering. But by understanding their impermanence and dependency, we also see the cure for that condition. For by cultivating a clear and accurate philosophical view of the nature of things, the view so explicitly articulated in Chapter 26, by internalizing that view, and by taking up with the world in accordance with it, we can cease the reification of the this and the that, grasping for which binds us to suffering. Nagarjuna argues that if we can achieve that, we can achieve the nirvana characterized in Chapter 25, a nirvana not found in an escape from the world but in an enlightened and awakened engagement with it.